Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host, Seth. Today I have a good buddy of mine, Shaun. We actually met through a lunch club way back when. It was one of those like matchy, not dating sites, but more like business dating sites, like where you get to meet, network, and stuff like that. It was happened during the pandemic.
Dark days.
And it was like, dark days, exactly. So we decided that, we should stay in touch. And he's a former photographer turned, I don't even know what you do nowadays, dude. Organizational brain foo-foo. You'll fill us in on exactly what you do, but it's a lot of organizational development and stuff like that. So Shaun, welcome.
Yeah, great to be here. And I kind of forgot that we met back in those days when I think everything
back in the dark days, the dark times.
It's kind of crazy to be on the other side here, but hopefully retaining some of the good stuff like this.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. So how did this all get started? I mean, did you go to college for photography? I mean, I know you're a photographer originally.
No. In fact, to clear up what the ambiguity, I do organizational development strategy.
Oh, I was right. Nice.
Yep. So I work with companies of all sizes to sometimes troubleshoot, work with their people, culture, strategy, and leadership primarily. But you're right, that doesn't have anything to do with photography, at least on the surface.
Yeah, how'd you go from photography to, what did you go to college for originally?
So I originally went to college for literature.
Ooh, so you can do a lot with that.
Right. Well, weirdly enough, this actually does come full circle now, because back in the day, they would say, I hope they're training you on how to say, would you like fries with that? That was
exactly.
common.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting. I always had a hunch.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been into a lot of different topics. One of those is futurism. And I had an understanding of what was going to be happening, especially with AI, digitization. And what I saw was that there was going to be an impact on people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people are my first love. All of my things I did in film, literature, photography, was all about people.
Yeah.
And I knew and I could foresee that in the future, we would actually need to get back to that if we're going to be successful. And some of that's really starting to happen right about now with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a strange time.
Well, if we think about it, we've spent decades, if not a century, trying to fit into a mechanical mode after the Industrial Revolution, where people were kind of like cogs in machines. And that worked for a little while, but now when you start to see, abysmal engagement numbers, attrition numbers, this isn't because people want to job hop. This isn't because people inherently are lazy. It's that there's also a breakdown in meaning.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think there's this huge opportunity. I just gave a big talk to a bunch of executives on this, is that if we actually get back to appreciating what makes humans the best, there's a real opportunity to kind of coexist and evolve with all of these changes. But right now, I think we're in a real phase of struggle. So that's where ultimately this switch from photography to all this. I had a parallel life where I was putting my 10,000 hours in leading large transformational leadership programs in the background.
Yeah. Oh, so you were always doing this in the background, but then you had your photography in the front end. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And so, but for me, they were always kind of connected. And then, of course, there's always these parallels of the lenses that you look at life through, or your team members, or all of that, and the lenses that you put on. And I was always very adept at working with some of my participants on their businesses, even though I wasn't a specialist. But I started to realize that there was a whole world to be creative in, actually, on the business side, and reimagining how businesses can function to serve their people, serve their customer, and serve the bottom line simultaneously.
Oh, wow. That's wild. And I know because when we first talked, you were just getting started in this. And it's all virtual. It was all Zoom this, Zoom
Yeah,
that. It was all this because we couldn't meet in person. You still managed to get COVID, I think, twice.
still managed. You know,
Still managed exactly. And you're originally from Wisconsin, right?
I literally just got back last night from Wisconsin. Yeah,
Oh boy, Wisconsin
Wisconsin.
don't
Yeah,
shut no.
I was talking to a bunch of leaders, and they've got a lot of big companies, manufacturing, and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then also
In
had
the
some.
Midwest, yeah, exactly. So yeah, so you were a photographer. What kind of photography did you do? Was it headshots or?
Uh, I hate to say that I was a fashion photographer because I don't think I was a particularly good one. I think I constantly confused fashion photography with portraiture, which is my real love. So
Oh,
I've done
okay. So,
everything. I used to be a celebrity photographer here. I live in New York City.
ooh,
Um,
yeah.
I had a very strange life. I would be spending periods of time living like a monk in India, and then I'd be backstage shooting
Uh,
Fashion Week.
every
Uh,
once in a while, I'll check online. I'll see Shaun's in like the Azores or something. I'm like, what the hell is he doing
yeah,
in the
yeah, I
Azores?
know. It's for me, the contrasts actually really
It's
help
fun.
clarify a lot, and
Yeah.
it's something that's popped up through all this because yeah, I've got a body of work with human trafficking victims, sex workers, and their
Oh
children,
wow.
and then there's just this glossy fashion, very New York stuff, and I don't know. There is something to being able to toggle between those worlds that I've found to be very valuable.
Do you still do the photography on the side for fun, or do you don't have time because you're so busy with the
Not a lot of
organizational stuff?
time, but occasionally, if my friend was just hosting a TEDx event,
Ooh.
and it wasn't a
Yeah.
big problem for me to throw my camera in and just help out a little bit. So
Yeah, you get some photos. Yeah.
yeah, every now and again, it also keeps me entertained a little bit too.
It's a
Um,
good hobby. It's a good side hustle.
well, it's also this strange. It's a strange paradoxical thing too. Um, Sometimes I don't like having doing small talk and just standing around waiting for somebody to talk to. So a camera can both be a great way to engage
Mm.
people.
Yeah.
But I also noticed, like more metaphorically, I used to be kind of in the background, always as an observer. So there's a lot of times where I
Yeah.
just don't want to have a camera there because it keeps me from participating in life. And then
Yeah,
there's
it's
other
good.
times where it's just this great tool to kind of
So you're very ambiverted, because an
very
introvert
much,
with mixed with a extrovert, like you get tired after a while. Like, where's that camera?
yeah, trying to time those out to optimize. I think that's the challenge.
That is a hard thing when you're ambivert. When you're both introverted and extrovert. I was an extrovert before the pandemic, and the pandemic made me an ambivert. I mean, I get to the point where I'm like, I just can't talk to people anymore. I need a break. I need to be head down working on a project. It's just too
I
much.
think there's a lot of people who are starting to grapple with that. We're not the same people. I
No, I
thought I
think
did
it's
really well
changed.
with it, but even I started to notice some shifts, and I finally had to grapple with it. Like, and I hope people have a little more freedom with themselves to grapple with
Hopefully,
that versus powering through. Because
yeah, you don't want to power through this kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
So have you always been an entrepreneur, or have you worked for the man at all, or the woman, or the
no,
person?
that's always actually I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, to be honest. And then
Mm,
other people think I'm very entrepreneurial.
yeah,
Um, I hate to say that most of it came from I didn't think I could ever hack it being in a corporate job.
yeah,
Um, I've always been a bit on the outside looking at the larger system, and so I'm
yeah.
very lucky now to be able to do that kind of work where I can
It's pretty
help
cool. Yeah,
organizations kind of see themselves through a different lens, uh, and to look at how to get more out of their people by it actually working for people and working for their bottom line. So
that's
I tend to
awesome.
be somebody who's on the outside. So that's always been a bit of a challenge. I'm like, I guess I am an entrepreneur in that respect.
You kind of fell into it. You're kind of like, I guess I
Yeah.
am now. There you go. That's
Yeah.
wild. So what's in your mind then? What's the best thing about being on your own and being an entrepreneur and doing what you want?
Well, the good side. It's to me, it's always a yin yang. I
Yeah,
love
it's
being
definitely
able
yin yang.
to focus my attention on the things that interest me most.
Yeah,
Um, and the harder part is discerning which things are really good that factor into the offerings and work
hmm
versus
yeah,
what doesn't. And that's sometimes a hard thing to figure out because I tend to be I'm a hyper creative, so I tend to connect a lot of ideas and do all this. Um,
yeah. Mind mapping and stuff. Yeah, but in the
yeah, for
head.
me, yeah, that's kind of happens naturally, and
hmm
so sometimes I'm wondering if that was the best use of time or if it's all aggregating and that it becomes
Yeah.
this thing in the background that really informs things. But but I love being able to change my area of focus and go deep on
Oh,
things
mm-hmm.
and then be able to go on to something else and learn. For me, it's always this expanding kind of repertoire of mastery.
I love it. So then on the flip side, what keeps you up at night?
Honestly, I'm really concerned for how I see this massive issue out there with people thrive, not really challenged to be thriving and working well. For me, one of the biggest challenges is how do we go through a paradigm shift where we still support everything we're doing with business, but have it work for people.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And what I challenged with is that a lot of the leadership and management mentality that we have
Mm-hmm.
is is consistently showing up as counterproductive to what really works. And so
Yeah.
this rift, I'm like, so how do you bridge this? How do you actually get people, so that's always the kind of not an ongoing challenge up here, because you have to
Yeah.
get people
It never
interested when you go
stops.
through a
Yeah.
process, and people resist change. So it's always this chicken egg kind of.
We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. Absolutely, my friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, so what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? You can go as woo-woo as you want on this, buddy. You can go as deep as you want or as surfacey as you want.
You know what?
Besides the camera.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I used to, like I said, I used to live like a monk for periods of time. And I've started to realize more and more that no matter where I am, no matter what the culture is, no matter what people are agreeing is normal, being able to get centered in yourself and being able to quiet the mind and quiet the chatter and connect deeply is the one thing, through meditation, through mindfulness, through other practices. The nice part about that is it's not heavy to carry around.
It isn't. It's kind of light. It can be heavy in your brain, but like it's
Heavy
not
in the
like
brain, but
physically heavy.
it's always going to fit in the overhead compartment, and
That's true.
travel
Yes, it very
travels
much
very
will.
lightly. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't get charged for extra bag.
Yeah,
For
no
that
extra baggage.
baggage, you don't get charged for.
Yeah. By the way, that is great pun, because I mean the other side of that is also respecting how much we are carrying around without realizing it. That shows up when you try to quiet the mind.
That's wild, yeah, because it's so true. Because there's a lot of stuff you carry both physically and mentally, and it's like you got to kind of hone in on what is needed and get rid of all the other cruft.
I accidentally end up teaching mindfulness sometimes.
Accidentally,
and it just shows up all that. People who don't have a ton of practice expect that you're just supposed to be able to wipe your mind clean. And
it's so hard.
I think it comes as a relief when you tell them, like, no, that's not.
Yeah,
You can be meditating for ages, and that's never going to happen. But yeah, there is that process of having to realize what's underneath the rug and being able to give it some space. And so for me, I feel like that's one of the most valuable things I've picked up along the way.
That's awesome. So, Shaun, where can people find you online if they want to connect? I mean, you're all over LinkedIn. I see.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Shaun, it's Shaun Mader, Mader. Website, trustedleadership.co.
There you go.
That's our leadership and strategy consultancy. And we've got the Trusted Leader podcast.
I know. It's a while. It's out there and it's growing.
Starting to grow, yeah. It started off as just let's just have some good conversations, and now the conversations keep growing, and that's why I love what you're doing as well.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
It's
good. It's a good reason to connect. Exactly.
Yeah, half the time we probably should have recorded our previous conversations.
Oh my God, our conversations go so deep. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
we should start doing that.
I call it accidental existentialism.
Oh, that's a good one. I like
that's
that.
A good podcast title right there.
Exactly. Well, Shaun, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks
so
for
much
having
fun to get you on, buddy. I'm thrilled. This is awesome.
Man, I'm a big fan. I appreciate it, and we'll have plenty more offline conversations.
Absolutely, my friend, and all because of Lunch Club. Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk?
Awesome, and we'll see everyone next week. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.